Okay, so you've seen the video with the fan hub slipping on there. I was running into temperature issues. This is a Cat C15 engine, single turbo. And this is a Frieghtliner truck. So this particular fan hub, if you look down in there, there's the washers. These are the nuts that I took off. It was the 9/16. I used this cano oil. Left it on there for 5 minutes, and then as best I could, I just wire brushed as much junk off of the end of them bolts as I could before I started to remove them, because I didn't want to break them or strip them, or it seems like that really helped. I tried one without wire brushing it. That was not the thing to do. So we're just going to keep moving this off. I'll take them washers off and then try to slip that out of there. And then I'll just kind of piece together this video as best I can. Okay, I'm just standing on the other side of the truck now. I took them washers off. I was having a hard time sliding this fan up and out with the shroud on, and I didn't want to take it off, so I just slid the fan ahead for now. And then I was just going to take the belt off here, so a 1/2 inch drive, and you can just put it in the tensioner down there. And then I'll take the belt off, and then in behind you'll see that hub right there is one bolt, and then a nut, and then there's one on the other side. So I'll take that all off, and then I'll start the video again once I have that done. Okay, now I'm standing in front of the radiator here, and as you pull these bolts out, you have to slide the whole thing out because the bolts will hit. So it gets to be a bit of a pain, but once I get them 4 bolts off, then hopefully I'll just take I could probably just take the fan belt off like this. Okay, and then I'll just keep working these bolts out, get that whole mechanism out, and then all I'll have to do is disconnect the air line on the bottom of it. Okay, so I have the hub slid off, and now all I'm doing is just disconnecting the air line, and then I'll try to jimmy it out of here, which might be easier said than done. You know, when you're working on something and you wonder why something was broken. When I got this truck, the fan shroud was broken. Without that piece missing, there would have been no way I could have pulled that whole assembly up and out of there. You would have been either taking the coolant hose off, or the coolant line here, or you would have had to take the shroud out. One of the two. No, I'm sure there would have been no other way. Okay, so I got this out. We're going to take it into the shop and see what it's all about. Okay, so we still have lots of air pressure. Turn the key on. Engine fan. Okay, so now the engine, oh there it is, engine fan. Engine fan is engaged. Now that's the solenoid right there. The electric comes in the back. And then we basically, okay, so there's no air coming out of that. Okay, so let's disengage. So just shut the switch off. Are you kidding me? I checked this yesterday. Okay, I had air coming through that yesterday. So that could be simply part of the problem. I don't think that'll be all of the problem though. Because if I apply air, the air would make it disengage. So even, yeah, that's right. So I could have something wrong with that solenoid on the truck because there's no air coming through. But this one would mean that this particular fan would fail on. So if the air line were to break or that solenoid were to fail, then basically I think the spring assist would make it so the fan would run all the time. Not that the fan would stop running all the time, which is far better to have a fail fan on instead of lose your fan altogether and overheat your truck. But this one was fail on, it was working fine, and now either that brake system in there is slipping too much because either there's not enough spring pressure or simply it's worn, that pad is worn too far. So I'll continue taking this apart and see, and then I can work on the air on the truck. But if this were to be stuck on all the time, well, big deal. Then at least your fan would be running. And right now, this is simply slipping. So something is not letting it go far enough that way, because this is like a brake disc. I think that's all it is just a brake on there. Okay, I finally found a vise big enough in the shop to hold this. Now, I just took a piece of flat bar and drilled 2 holes, and then I had to put it on a sander edge to kind of just bevel that out. And then basically that fits over 2 of the bolts like that. And then you need a T55 Torx is what, I only had it in 3/8. So, and off camera, I had poured a bunch of that anti-seize stuff down in there. And I tried to wire brush that, we'll call it a bolt down there, I guess, with the threads. Wire brush it, but it was hard and there's lots of corrosion in there. And so not gonna lie to you, off camera, what a fight. I found a really good YouTube video that said that you need to have air hooked up to it. So I basically found an air line in the truck I had, and then I just hooked it to there. And then I had some 1/4 inch stainless fittings, so I put it on there so I could put my air chuck on there, and then supply whatever 90 or 100 pounds, and you'll see this raise up as soon as there. Now, it wasn't leaking yesterday, but you can hear that leak, and it's coming from underneath in the center. There's a little hole, like a weep hole. That's where it's coming from. So definitely, so the other thing is if I let go of this air pressure after I have this apart, there's a lot of warnings around that. It's like the springs in there, and this thing is about kind of chest height, almost neck height on me in this vise. So I'm hoping that once I get it off, I can put a steel plate on there and I'll just leave the air run to it and keep it like that. So anyhow, I did just get it broke free before I started the camera again. And you're basically gonna push the ratchet counterclockwise. And so basically with your tool that you make to put around the bolts here, you're gonna push that clockwise. So the inner is counterclockwise and the outer is, okay? And you would never get this without that tool. Even with an impact, there's not a chance. So build yourself that tool and that'll help a lot. And try to get it to that scale off as possible. Oh my goodness. Okay, that was a lot of thread, so good thing I tried prying it because I thought, but good thing I didn't overdo it on that. You can see how gross the end of those threads are there. Okay, so now there's a snap ring down in there, but I think I want to put something over top of that and then see if I can't find a nut. So I'm going to leave the air on it while I look for that, because it keeps sounding like that if you air release it, that's a problem. And then I'm not sure if these are a Torx 25 or a 27. I'll figure that out. That's that replaceable disc there. So I'll just stop the video here for a minute and then find the rest of my tools and and get back at her. Okay, I'm going to remove, these are T27 Torx, and I'm just going to loosen all the ones on this outer ring. Okay, and I had just taken my air blaster and blew all them Torx out or whatever. Just full of junk. Now that I know they're all loose. Okay, now this is the danger part. And I don't have a nut to hold that down. So, I'm gonna have to continue to brainstorm if I think of something. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to leave it till I find the right nut to put on there or some sort of clamping system. Okay, so after all my work last night, I run into two things. Is I needed a holder before I took the rest of these off, because that's the part that's spring loaded, and that's a left-hand thread, so not just any nut will work. So I brought it down to the HKP shop, and they have a holder that'll clamp that, and then we'll pull it out. And then the mechanic told me that I was using a T55 Torx, and he said that was wrong. I needed a T55 Torx Plus, which has the fatter lips on there. So make sure you have a T55 Torx Plus, that they are different. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We found the right caging nut with the left-hand thread. So we would normally tighten that on there, but then you almost have to leave this with that when you throw it away, because we're gonna install the whole new assembled unit on here. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna just zip cut some a V on each side that corresponds with the 2 bolts I have left, and then we can take the whole thing apart and throw it away and then drop the new one on, and then we won't have to use this caging nut, because there's sort of like a sacrificial throwaway piece if you're changing a complete assembled unit. If you were rebuilding it and just changing out this disc and the bearings, then you could use the caging nut and ultimately take it away, but we're not doing that. We're gonna redo everything.
That one too?
Yep.
Doesn't want too bad.
Okay, now this is all, the springs in there, put the cap back on, so we can take the last 2 out. And then we'll pop this off, and then underneath is going to be that nut. Away we go.
This thing in the way so I can use it, isn't it?
That was 2-inch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, here's the bearing. Okay, so this was down in there.
Yep.
And then this pin is over top of it. Pull that out, and then we're just going to try to take the whole hub assembly up and off.
Usually you just pull that pulley right off, but the one I did on Saturday was stuck, and it seems like this one is stuck too. It's too bad, I guess.
Just pressing the bearings out here. We're at the bottom bearing, right?
I'll probably have to take that one out before the last one.
Right, right, to the
Has
bottom.
one.
Okay,
Just because I didn't want to take the time and put both of those
right.
narrow ones in there.
Okay, so we just bottomed out, and basically there was an outside sleeve, and then there's an inside sleeve in the bearing.
Alright, now I'm just gonna bottom out again.
Okay, so as we took this off, the mechanic said this is a 69 or 6209 bearing. So we checked it with the new bearings because the kit, the sleeves were way shorter, so they would have had to have fatter bearings to compensate, but it looks like this will work just fine. And this bearing is a little bit rough, so good to be doing it all at once. Okay, so he's just going to start to press the new bearings in, and I am going to stop videoing for a little bit because I have found out that this is a little bit past where most people would take fixing their fan hub. You do need a few specialty tools. So if you get this far, you're just going to make sure that you have the right sleeves in the kit you order. Most of the new kits now come pre-assembled, so you're not actually having to take the components apart and rebuild them, which I think is handy. And you're more than likely always going to want to re-bearing your hub. Once you take it apart, very smart idea, don't just throw a new disc in there and carry on. So once we get it, or once we're back and have the bearings in and we're putting the hub in, then I'll add another little foot there. So David, the mechanic here, is a firm believer in copper coat. So this is the stuff that he uses. I see that's got the red Loctite. Yeah.
I think the other one I did had blue.
Okay.
The one I did on Saturday.
Okay, so David just went and got the torque wrench, 125 foot-pounds. Should
grab the shorter ones and get it on.
You can tell we're not at my shop anymore because I would never have a snap-on torque wrench. Do you think that would be able to reuse the existing bolts for the fan? Yeah, these are just there to...
They're studs and then
Oh, okay.
you put nuts on.
Okay, that's the way. So then we're just... Okay.
It says
You know what? Probably because I didn't look at mine. Oh,
they had studs.
they just had nuts.
They
Okay.
just had fine thread and these
Yeah.
are coarse thread, so you're gonna have to use.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
And I would recommend copper coating.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
I don't know.
Didn't record the last time, but David was telling me this one, it's a flat disc, and then the brake kind of works up and down. Which he said this one does too, but it's more of a cone, so you can see the brake and the cone shuts. And he said these ones here, 80. How do you say 80 inch?
Pounds.
80 inch pounds, not 80 foot pounds. So torque these to 80 inch pounds.
Too much noise from outside.
Okay, just finished up with the fan hub. I brought it down to the local HKP truck and trailer shop in Worsley. They had all the right tools. Got some great mechanics here. So just a thank you to HKP. And we'll go throw this fan hub back in and should be on the road again. Take care. Okay, just mounting the hub back in here again. Again, this shroud, without this broken piece here, there would have been no way to fit that hub down in there. So the mechanic said that he's had to take the shroud, unbolt it, and then kind of tip it away. And he was able to, but either the coolant hose or these brackets in the shroud. And then what I did is I just taped the fan back because I had to get the hub down in there. And then I put it straight down and then tip the bolts in to the middle here so that I had room, and then I was able to get the bolts. I run a little thin 1-inch ratchet strap from here to here underneath of the fan hub once I had it down in there, and then that way I could kind of just ratchet it up a little bit to get it to the right height, and then I could work on my bolts. So that seemed to help a little bit. So I'll just keep tightening stuff up, and then I think I'm gonna have to change one fitting, and then I can at least get the fan on, start the truck. And then again, I think that this hub is closed, so the fan should be engaged and it should be an air release. So spring on, air release is what I'm hoping for. But every time I look at a different truck, it kind of confuses me a little. So once I get the fan on, we'll start it. The truck has no air in it. So if the fan turns with no air, that means that it's spring assist and it's basically on. And then it would be air to turn it off. So the air would be to the fan all the time. And then when you hit the manual switch in the cab, you would be shutting the air off, killing the air supply to the fan, and then it would spring assist on, is how I think it works. Okay, so I got the fan belt back on. Everything is good to go. I left the air line disconnected to the bottom of the fan hub. So we're just gonna hit the key and we are going to see if the fan turns, which I think that the system is a fail fan on. So with no air in the truck, it should be turning. The mechanic said he actually liked the other ones better, because then when you start your truck, the fan's not turning and your engine will warm up faster. But I kind of thought the thermostats to the rad would be closed, so all the fan is going to be doing is blowing outside air across the engine, but the coolant shouldn't circulate through the rad until the thermostat opens. But anyhow, that's what I think. Okay, should be the last part of the clip here. Again, this is the air solenoid with the wire coming to it from the truck for the manual switch. And as soon as there'll be no air, or no, there'll be air going through that switch. And then when I hit the manual switch to on, it'll release the air going through that line to the fan, and that's what'll make it go into the engaged position, just like if you had no air under your start position. So we'll fire it up. Okay, so fan is turning, and then we'll turn the switch on. The engine fan light comes on. Turn the switch to the off position, and there should be air that's coming through. There, shut off. The key is off, so it kills power to that switch. Okay. Maybe that's why I brought the stubby out. waited. Okay. Okay, last time. Okay, so fan switch in the off position. So that fan is barely turning. Again, with it in the off position, the fan is still going to turn a little. You'll see how it just slowed down here. So, the owner of the shop there, I showed him the video, of course, of me sticking my hand in there. Don't ever do that. But I knew that the fan wasn't turning, so it was easy to stop. And you can see the same thing again. Right there, it stopped. So as soon as I hit the air on, see it'll start to spin. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget somebody in here to help you out. And it's just another thing I realized when you're working on stuff. You know, it's good to figure it out on your own, to try and diagnose, to do as much as you can. Not be scared to pull some wrenches, but I can't say enough for that HKD shop, for David that was helping me this morning, and for the owner Darcy and Greg, the parts person there, had everything ready to rock and roll. So a big shout out to them fellas. And